Welcome everyone to Let's Play Game of Thrones, a Crusader Kings 2 mod. As always, I am your host, J2 John Jeremy. Starting with this video series, I'll actually be calling out the video title in each of the sessions, in an attempt to accentuate the idea of individual and distinct episodes. For example, this is episode 0, the Prologue. Now there is a reason why this is in fact episode 0 and not episode 1. While I've been releasing teasers for this series, I've also been keeping an eye on the comments. One of the comments that has been posted quite frequently is that some individuals are perhaps disinterested due to a lack of common knowledge behind Game of Thrones or its parent series, A Song of Ice and Fire. This video is an attempt to rectify that. Now, while hours upon hours could be spent discussing the intricate details of the lore, and trust me when I say that many have made the effort, this will be a high-level overview only. But before I get into the lore of the series, I want to spend a minute or two talking about the modification itself. Game of Thrones, a Crusader Kings 2 mod, was first released on May 26, 2012 as version 0.1. This was back when Crusader Kings 2 itself was only in version 1.05. There was only one scenario available, that of Robert's Rebellion, but the possibilities were endless. Players could partake as any landed feudal noble in Westeros. Knights, Maesters, a mod-developed mega-war system to handle large civil wars, the Night's Watch, and more were all new additions into the game. It felt like it was true to the series, which is more than the officially licensed titles could say. The current version of the mod is version 0.4.6, and it was released on June 26, 2013. This mod has been in development for over a year, with new ideas, systems, and more being input into the game, making it even more fleshed out. Wildlings have been in the mod for some time now. Magic and a new dueling system bring game balance and lore together. There are now 11 different scenarios, ranging from the days of the Seven Kingdoms before Aegon Targaryen's conquest of Westeros, to A Feast for Crows, the fourth novel in the Song of Ice and Fire series. The developers of the mod are even planning on introducing a new continent into the game, that of Essos. The developers of the mod have even used some released downloadable content from Paradox to include new features into the game as well. Want to have the ability to have multiple wives? Purchase and use the Sword of Islam DLC. What about the ability to castrate or blind your enemies? With the Legacy of Rome DLC installed, you can do so at your leisure. The most recent DLC, The Old Gods, enables a concubine system for followers of the Drowned God religion, as well as creates berserkers, adventurers, new types of rebels, and more. What I'm trying to get at here is that this is a fully featured mod, one that is a constant form of development, and that from its time of launch to now, a lot of work and effort has been put into it in what I assume is a non-compensated effort to bring Game of Thrones to life, and the individuals who have worked on this mod have done a fantastic job at that. Now to speak on the lore of the game. I've divided the video into distinct parts, each of which showcase a specific Westerosi territory and noble house. You'll notice distinct music being played in each section as well. And again, I must give credit to the mod and to its musical composer, as the mod has had 33 pieces of music created just for it, that give the game a much more immersive experience than if it had been just using the standard vanilla Crusader Kings 2 orchestra. Let's begin with the territories beyond the Wall. Welcome to the lands beyond the Wall. The northernmost territories of Westeros, the lands beyond the Wall are mostly unexplored due to the harsh climate and some would say even harsher inhabitants. Calling themselves the Free Folk, but referred to by those south of the Wall as Wildlings, the populace of the territories beyond the Wall are spread out in tribes and villages, in a testament to the philosophy of only the strong survive, and only the stronger thrive. In the territories to the far north, in the lands of always winter, stories continue to make their way into the Seven Kingdoms regarding the mysterious and deadly creatures known as the Others, or the White Walkers. Some even consider the Others as only a story, a tale to make children shiver. If they had ever lived at all, they haven't been seen or heard from for over 8,000 years. Here we find ourselves representing Craster, and the territory of Craster's Keep. Craster is an unsavory individual with a harsh look to him and a cold as ice demeanor. Still, he shares his shelter to the men of the Night's Watch on occasion, but how much of that is Craster's desire to be friendly versus his desire to remain alive is not something that is spoken aloud. Craster's keep is where he resides, along with his 19 wives, many of whom were his own daughters. What's interesting in this mod is when it comes to the wildlings, they play differently than any of the other potential rulers. Wildlings in-game, true to the lore, only follow strong leaders like the kings beyond the wall. They will receive a free Cassius Belli, which means a free cause to declare war, on all of their wildling neighbors, as well as significant military bonuses. However, wildlings are susceptible to rebellions. Give the people enough reason to hate you, and as a wildling, that's as good as signing your own death warrant if enough people come after you. Furthermore, titles are not passed down in the lands beyond the wall. When a king beyond the wall dies, his next of kin is not automatically granted the title. Wildlings only respect power earned, not power given. If you want to be king beyond the wall again, you'll have to earn it with a new character from scratch. Wildlings are an interesting sort, and several of them have been featured quite prominently in the novels and television show. No matter their lack of technology or custom, in comparison to those south of the wall, they choose to follow men. They choose to follow law. They place their faith in an individual's word rather than in coin. Women are given the same rights as men and are allowed to fight in any conflict. To those south of the wall, the populace is called wildling for their lawlessness and raiding behavior. In comparison, to those beyond the wall, those south are considered kneelers, people who have been given up their freedoms for fancy, to subject themselves to a multitude of lords and kings. Wildlings are a free folk indeed. Let's descend the wall now, and make our way over to the territories of the North. The North is one of the territories of Westeros and was once a sovereign kingdom unto itself in the days before the War of Conquest and the arrival of Aegon Targaryen. Furthermore, it is the largest of the 7 kingdom regions, nearly as large as all 6 others combined. With this space, the lands are not densely populated, with many forests, hills, and mountains dotting its landscape. Villages and holdfasts are predominant methods of living, with the harbor city of White Harbor the exception to the rule. Its northern border is held secure by the Wall and the men of the Night's Watch, men who are sworn to guard against the possibility of invasion by wildlings or the others. And its southern border is held by Moat Cailin, a fortress overlooking the Neck, a territory filled with swamp and bog, giving the north a great natural border to those in the south. Those in the north are nearly all considered descended from the first men, the first humans to arrive in Westeros. Unlike those in the south, Northmen are considered to be straightforward and disdain of comforts and untrue behaviors. Most still follow the old gods of the children of the forest, though there are few weirwood trees remaining south of the wall at which to pray, which is customary. There is a strict code of honor, much like the free folk beyond the wall, where what a man says and what he promises to commit to is more important than anything else. As such, those in the north do not take any deserter of the Night's Watch in for shelter, as it is seen as the breaking of a most solemn vow. Furthermore, lords that do not look to vengeance for affronts against him or his people may risk having his own men turn on him due to a lack of faith in this particular aspect of their culture. Here we find ourselves representing Eddard Stark in the territory of Winterfell. Eddard, known also as Ned, is Lord of Winterfell and Warden of the North. He is a friend to Robert Baratheon and considers Jon Arryn a father figure. Eddard is known for his sense of honor, and while his family members see him as a kind, if not strong-willed individual, others consider him cold and reserved. For your comparison, in Ned's own words, if you would take a man's life, you owe it to him to look into his eyes and hear his final words, and if you cannot do that, then perhaps the man does not deserve to die. A ruler who hides behind paid executioners soon forgets what death is. The Stark house sigil is a direwolf, and the house motto is, Winter is coming. Winterfell is the ancestral castle and seat of power for House Stark, and is considered to be the capital of the North. Considered built by Brandon the Builder over 8,000 years ago, Winterfell has been home to Stark since, whether they be kings in the North or wardens of the North. Built around an ancient godswood and over natural hot springs, Winterfell is considered to be a more comfortable place to live than other castles in the North during cold winters. Underneath the castle, the crypts keep all the bones of the former lords of Winterfell and immediate family. House Stark is one of the great houses of Westeros, and many a lesser house has sworn fealty to them. For nearly 8,000 years, there has never been a time when the name Stark wasn't synonymous to the lands of the North. In the mod, you'll find a ruling Stark in each one of the scenarios, each one with the powerful northern army at their command. What you can do with it, that's up to you. Let's cross Moat Cailin and make our way across Iron Man's Bay to make our arrival in the Iron Isles. The Iron Islands is one of the territories of the Seven Kingdoms, and was once a sovereign nation unto itself until the War of Conquest and the arrival of Aegon Targaryen. Those who live in the territory here are called Ironborn. There are 7 major islands that constitute the Iron Islands: Pike, Great Wick, Old Wick, Harlaw, Saltcliff, Black Tide, and Orkmont. The Lonely Light, some distance away, is also considered a part of the Iron Islands. Infertile places. There are also few safe places that a trader may sail to and consider himself out of danger. The Ironborn are men of the sea and are unmatched in naval supremacy. Independent-minded, each captain of a ship is considered to be in complete command once at sea. Cruelty amongst the Ironborn is common. They live on lands that don't provide, yet not so far away on the mainland, there are bountiful harvests and more that are just outside their grasp. Unique to the Iron Islands is the belief in the Drowned God, a sea deity that it is said that made the Ironborn want to reave and rape. The saying of, "What is dead may never die," is used upon the drowning of an Ironborn. Here we find ourselves representing Balon Greyjoy in the territory of Pike. Balon is considered the Lord Paramount of the Iron Islands and is also captain of the Great Kraken. Balon is a stubborn man whose time and power has shown him to be fearless, but headstrong. Known as a natural seaman, at the age of 15 he had already killed his first man and taken 2 salt wives. Balon is also a strict follower of the old way, the idea that an Ironborn didn't pay for things that he could not simply take for himself. At one point, Ironborn power and held territories included the Riverlands, the Arbor, and more. Since the War of Conquest, Greyjoy power has been limited to the Iron Islands, and Balon is seen as an individual who could be considered quite dangerous and crafty, with great ambitions. The mod makes playing as an Ironborn a unique experience. The territories aren't considered very powerful, but they are independent enough and far enough from the mainland to not be affected by the potential ravages of war. Furthermore, the Ironborn all gain access to the abilities of reaving and pillaging, including free Cassius Belli's against the mainland whenever the opportunity presents itself. Dare you try your hand at a career pillaging at sea? But remember, should the mainland ever unite against you, the Iron Islands hold little power to defend. The choice is yours. Let's cross back over the bay and make our way back onto the mainland and into the Riverlands. The Riverlands is a central territory in the lands of Westeros, and due to that central placement, the Riverlands have also seen many a battle across its countryside. The inhabitants of the Riverlands are known as Rivermen. Bordered by the Westerlands in the west, the Vale to the east, and the territories controlled by the Iron Throne to the south, the Riverlands under the control of House Tully looks to political alliances to ensure its continued survival. The Riverlands have not been known to a single house, like House Stark in the north, or House Greyjoy in the Iron Islands. Instead, many different lords have claimed the Riverlands as their own. When the first men arrived in Westeros, House Mud were known as the kings of the rivers and hills. After the Andal invasion, there were several different ruling families in control, including the Teagues and Justmans. The last king in the Riverlands was Harren the Black, who ordered the construction of the greatest castle in Westeros, Harrenhal, only to have it destroyed by fire with the arrival of Aegon Targaryen and his dragons. Here we find ourselves representing Hoster Tully in the territory of Riverrun. After Aegon conquered the Riverlands, he raised up House Tully as lords paramount to the Riverlands, of which Hoster Tully represents here. Known as a man who holds grudges, Hoster is unable to forgive his brother Brynden for not acceding to his request to marry a lady of the House Redwyn. In the past, Hoster has served the throne loyally in the War of the Ninepenny Kings, and even betrothed his daughter Catelyn to House Stark. The House Tully sigil is a silver trout, and the house motto is family, duty, honor. Riverrun is the ancestral three-sided castle of House Tully. Two of the sides are bordered by rivers, while the final side lay on the other side of a man-made ditch. Properly garrisoned, the castle can hold men and horses for as long as 2 full years, and the ditch can be filled with water in an emergency, leaving the castle as an island fortress. With the mod, those individuals playing in the Riverlands are going to have a slightly more difficult time than most. While the economics are nice, the territories sit between 4 different great houses, each of which eager to gain additional power over the others. Tread carefully. Let us continue to make our way west across the Mountains of the Moon and into the Vale. The Riverlands is a central territory in the lands of Westeros, and due to that central placement, the Riverlands have also seen many a battle across its countryside. The inhabitants of the Riverlands are known as Rivermen. Bordered by the Westerlands in the west, the Vale to the east, and the territories controlled by the Iron Throne to the south, the Riverlands under the control of House Tully looks to political alliances to ensure its continued survival. The Riverlands have not been known to a single house, like House Stark in the north, or House. The Vale is one of the territories of Westeros and was once a sovereign nation unto itself known as the Kingdom of Mountain and Vale before the War of Conquest and the arrival of Aegon Targaryen. Ruled by House Arryn from the Eyrie, the Vale is located on the eastern shore. Isolated due to the mountain ranges, travel to the Vale only occurs during warmer years, and even then, autonomous mountain clans make the trek difficult. The people of the Vale are known as Valemen. Furthermore, they are also known as honorable and pious individuals, following in the worship of the faith of the Seven, a single deity with 7 different faces for different virtues. The faces are the Father, Mother, Warrior, Maiden, Smith, Crone, and Stranger. The autonomous mountain clans have rejected both the authority of House Arryn and the faith of the Seven, preferring their own kept gods. Here we find ourselves represented by Jon Arryn in the territory of the Eyrie. Defender of the Vale and Warden of the East, Jon Arryn sits in control of the Vale. Furthermore, he has acted as foster father to both Eddard Stark and Robert Baratheon in times past, when they were once his wards. Unfortunately, Jon has thus far had no luck in achieving an heir for his own to succeed him, with 2 wives having died before him. The Arryn House sigil is a white moon and falcon on a sky blue field, and their motto is as high as honor. The Eyrie is the ancient seat of House Arryn, with the house being one of the oldest lines of Andal nobility. To reach the Eyrie, an invading army would have to overcome the bloody gate guarding the high road, then overcome the gates of the moon located at the bottom of the mountain. In fact, Aegon Targaryen did not even make conquest of the Vale, like he did with the other sovereign kingdoms at the time. The boy king Ronald Arryn was found with Visenya Targaryen and the dragon Vhagar by his mother, who exclaimed to her that he wanted to ride upon it. This was after some time of warfare between the 2 families. At the request of her son, however, his mother Shara Arryn, who ruled in his name, immediately bent the knee. In the mod, playing as the Vale gives the player an advantage in terms of defensible position, but with the Riverlands to the east and the lands held by the Iron Throne in the south, there is not much room for movement for players looking to expand without causing a large-scale war, as high as honor indeed. Let us now return westward until we reach the fortress of Casterly Rock within the Westerlands. The Westerlands is a territory in the continent of Westeros, formerly an independent and sovereign kingdom in its own right, known as the Kingdom of the Rock. Ruled by House Lannister, the Westerlands is noted as being very defensible on land, with guard stations like the Golden Tooth, the Sea Road, and Crakehall, but has also been noted as being very vulnerable from the sea, which has led to several raiding parties from the Iron Islands stealing away valuable materials with ease. The Westerlands are not the largest, most populous, or most fertile part of the realm, but they are the richest. The landscape is full of hills, which is dotted with mines from which come seemingly endless amounts of gold and silver. There are mines in Casterly Rock, Golden Tooth, Nuns Deep, and Pendrick Hills, giving the house that controls the Westerland a grand treasury like no other. Originally held by House Casterly, the Westerlands were taken hold of by the hero and trickster Lan the Clever, an ancestor to the Lannisters. With the War of Conquest, King Loren Lannister allied with King Meryn of the Reach in an attempt to annihilate the Targaryen invader. Together they assembled the largest army ever seen at that time, but no army of any size could be a match for dragons. After the army was decimated, Loren bent the knee and was confirmed as Lord Paramount of the Westerlands. Here we find ourselves representing Tywin Lannister in the territory of Casterly Rock. Tywin's father, Tytos, had been a poor ruler who had almost led the family into ruin. Tywin led the Lannister forces against rebellions from vassals, including House Tarbeck and House Reyne, with Tywin showing no mercy on either family. The Reigns of Castamere was written in regards to Tywin's extinguishment of the Reyne line. Seen as a brilliant individual and a very powerful one, Tywin Lannister has served the Targaryen king Aerys as Hand of the King, the closest personal advisor in the realm. The Lannister sigil is a golden lion on a field of crimson. Their house motto is "Hear Me Roar." However, an unofficial but equally well-known motto is "A Lannister always pays his debts." In the mod, playing as the Westerlands, especially in certain scenarios, makes the player a power unrivaled in-game. With a steady economy, a player need only to pick and choose the right moment from which to grasp power. However, as shown in the novels and on the television show, it is only a short step between grabbing onto that power and losing it in a horrible manner. Let's make our way south, entering into the lands of the Reach. The Reach is one of the territories of Westeros, and formerly a sovereign kingdom known as the Kingdom of the Reach before the War of Conquest and the arrival of Aegon Targaryen. Ruled from Highgarden by House Tyrell, it is the most fertile territory in Westeros, as well as the most populated one. The Reach is also considered by many to be the home to Westerosi chivalry. Knighthood in the Reach is revered and esteemed. Tournaments are held in the Reach on a constant basis, where the rules are stringent and the events heavily managed. Tracing back to the Age of Heroes, House Gardner originally controlled the territory of the Reach, ruling members of the house naming themselves King of the Reach. Many families today, including House Tyrell, claim descendancy. House Tyrell of Highgarden claimed control of the Reach following the death of King Meryn Gardner at the Field of Fire during the War of Conquest. For bending the knee after their king's death, Aegon Targaryen granted House Tyrell Lord Paramountcy over the Reach. Here we find ourselves representing Mace Tyrell in the territory of Highgarden. Defender of the Marches, High Marshal of the Reach, and Warden of the South, Mace Tyrell is a man whose luck seems to have no end. Not one for political intrigue, Mace has always found himself blessed with advisors who are more than capable to come up with plots and perform tasks that exceed expectation, while Mace will reap all the benefit. Many say that success has gone to Mace's head, and his greed and desire for more power is insatiable. The castle of Highgarden is the seat of House Tyrell, the regional capital of the Reach, and the heart of chivalry in the Seven Kingdoms. It has been described as having groves and fountains along with courtyards and marble colonnades. Sitting on the Mander, where the Ocean Road meets the Rose Road, the castle sits at a vital position for passage in the Seven Kingdoms, as well as a fantastic area for trade. In the mod, those who play in the Reach will find themselves with better than most food harvests, as well as decent trade routes. Bide your time carefully, and who knows what may turn up in your favor. Let us move east, into the Stormlands. The Stormlands is one of the territories of Westeros and was once a former sovereign kingdom known as the Kingdom of the Stormlands until the War of Conquest and the arrival of Aegon Targaryen. Ruled from Storm's End by House Baratheon, the territory is named as such due to the savage and frequent storms that hit the coast time and time again. Located south of King's Landing, it is one of the smaller regions of Westeros, holding several forest ranges including the Rainwood and Kingswood. The Dornish Marches serve as a buffer between the Stormlands, the Reach, and Dorne. There are also a few islands including Tarth and Estermont, which are also considered to be Stormland territory. The Stormlands were the domain of the Storm Kings, whose territory once stretched to Moat Cailin in the north. Used to military conflict with Dorne, the populace of the Stormlands have strong martial traditions, and a number of castles have already been built in the territory. The last Storm King was Argilac the Arrogant, who was killed in the War of Conquest. The lands, titles, sigil, and words of the Storm Kings were given to Orys of House Baratheon, whose house has ruled the territory since. The Baratheon sigil is a crowned black stag on a field of gold. The house motto is, "Ours is the Fury." The House Baratheon was founded with Orys, one of Aegon Targaryen's greatest generals. Rumored to be a bastard offshoot to the Targaryen line, the Baratheons have remained loyal to the crown for some time, including during the Blackfyre Rebellion, where another cadet branch of the Targaryens looked to seize the throne for themselves. Here we find ourselves representing Robert Baratheon and the territory of Storm's End. In youth, Robert has been described as tall, broad-shouldered, and built. Not particularly intelligent, Robert has been seen as an unrivaled warrior without equal. He has two brothers, Stannis and Renly. He has also watched his parents die in a shipwreck not far from Storm's End, and was a ward under the Lord Paramount of the Vale, Jon Arryn. In the mod, playing in the Stormlands usually means being thrust into conflict early and often. Expect warfare to grace your doorstep, but also opportunity to knock quite a bit more frequently than if playing in another territory. Let's head further south, past the Dornish marshes, and into Dorne itself. Dorne is a large peninsula and one of the 7 major territories of Westeros. Its capital is Sunspear, and unlike any other house, its ruling members style themselves prince or princess due to their Rhoynish heritage. It is also the hottest region in Westeros, with rocky, mountainous, arid, and dry features seen and felt across its land. Water is as valuable as gold in Dorne, and sources of water are closely guarded. Dorne is the least populous of the 7 kingdoms, and those that reside within are called Dornishmen. Dornishmen differ from other Westerosi due to their Rhoynish heritage, including a reputation for sexual extravagance and a quick-to-temper attitude. Dorne is also known for their exported products, including fruits and Dornish wine. Sunspear is the ancient stronghold of House Martell and the capital of Dorne. A walled city, entry means passing through the threefold gate, which leads directly to the old palace. When the Rhoynar fled Essos over 1,000 years ago, their leader Nymeria took her people to the eastern coast of Dorne and established an alliance with House Martell and Sunspear. With Nymeria's help, Martell was able to unite the entire Dornish territory under his rule, and in the Rhoynar style, he took the title of prince, married Nymeria, and introduced equal primogeniture. During the War of Conquest, after the arrival of Aegon Targaryen, Dorne was the only Westerosi territory to not bend the knee to the Valyrian ruler. Instead of allowing Aegon to send forth his dragons on an open field of combat like everyone else had, Dornishmen turned to guerrilla tactics and performed quick strikes and raids until eventually Aegon gave up on fully uniting the continent. 150 years later, Daeron I managed to subdue the Dornish territory, but only for a limited time as it immediately rose in rebellion. Daeron's successor, Baelor the Blessed, recognized the futility of continuing warring with Dorne, and instead married a cousin to House Martell. Joined in a marriage alliance, Dorne now accepted the Targaryen kings, and House Martell loyally served their now family. Here we find ourselves representing Doran Martell in the territory of Sunspear. First son and heir to his mother who ruled Dorne before him, Doran lost two younger brothers in his youth. His sister Elia, once planned for a marriage to Jaime Lannister, instead found herself married to the crown prince of the Iron Throne, Rhaegar Targaryen. She's a sickly individual, and with the births of her children Rhaenys and Aegon, have found herself unable to give any more, and has been confined to bed for some time. A final brother, Oberyn, is known as the Red Viper, and is famed for his dueling skill. The sigil of House Martell is a spear through a sun. The house motto is unbowed, unbent, unbroken. Finally, let us head north and towards the Iron Throne, where the ruling House Targaryen sits at King's Landing. The Crownlands is one of the 9 territories of Westeros, and while never a sovereign nation in its own right, after the arrival of Aegon Targaryen, the Crownlands are known for holding the capital of Westeros, King's Landing, and being controlled by the Iron Throne. King's Landing is the territory's major city and the driving force to economy in the territory. In the Age of Heroes, House Darkland ruled the future Crownland territories. While not as powerful as any of the other major players in Westerosi politics at the time, the Darklands held control of their territories until the War of Conquest. The Targaryens of Valyria settled at Dragonstone after fleeing their former home, and with the rise of Aegon, the Crownlands were the first territory of the Westerosi mainland conquered. House Targaryen was one of the ancient noble houses known as Dragon Lords who ruled in Valyria. Bringing their dragons with them to Westeros, Aegon and his sisters had little in the way of an army, but with the power of dragons managed to make almost every independent Westerosi territory bend the knee. Anointed as king by the High Septon, Aegon created a Targaryen dynasty that has lasted nearly 300 years. While converted to the faith of the Seven, Targaryens continue to follow the Valyrian practice of incestuous marriage, wedding brother to sister, cousin to cousin, uncle to niece, and aunt to nephew, as a way of holding themselves apart from and above the noble Westerosi families. Here we find ourselves representing Aerys II Targaryen, also known as Aerys the Mad, or the Mad King. The 17th Targaryen king, Aerys has ruled since 262 after landing. At the start of his reign, Aerys was seen as a gentle ruler and kind, or at least described as such by Targaryen romantics. But after the defiance of Duskendale, where he was made a prisoner of another Westerosi house, he was made insane with fits of paranoia and gross cruelty. House Targaryen's sigil is a 3-headed dragon breathing flames, red on black, representing Aegon Targaryen and his 2 sisters, Rhaenys and Visenya. Their house motto is Fire and Blood. King's Landing is the capital of the 7 Kingdoms, located on the east coast of Westeros and overlooking Blackwater Bay. It is the site of the Iron Throne and the Red Keep, the seat of the king. Extremely populous but also unsightly and dirty compared to other cities, the smell can be discovered far beyond its walls. The City Watch of King's Landing, also known as the Gold Cloaks, is the city's police force, in charge of guarding the town and rooting out the criminal, while the Royal Fleet guards the entrance to Blackwater Bay. In the mod, playing as the Crownlands means being committed to, or being the Iron Throne controller. While it may sound exciting at first, note that in Westeros, all it takes is a single pin to drop, or a plan to come to fruition, and you may be staring at a large-scale civil war unlike any other. Fire and blood, indeed. And that's that. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I hope you guys enjoyed the overview into the Game of Thrones lore. Everything before my comments right now was all scripted, but obviously that's not going to be the case once the video series gets started. Now, while it may seem like I know what I'm doing, obviously I don't. One of the things that was mentioned in my teaser trailers in the past was that many people thought that I was going to be playing as the Night's Watch. Well, that's not exactly going to be the case. I'd love to hear from you guys on what particular aspect or territory you'd like to see me playing as a part of, and why. I'll take all these opinions under advisement before I go ahead and start this video series. I do have a couple things in mind, one of which is that we are going to be playing as a custom ruler. The reason for that is because we want to go ahead and showcase Game of Thrones as it's meant to be played. When you're playing the Game of Thrones, you either win or you die. Why not start off with a small lord and work our way up the chain from there? We've already done being a king and starting from there. Let's do it from scratch. Until next time, this is J Squared John Jeremy signing out, saying so long and take care.